It's public life. It's not. It looks like every other American.
Okay, so this was the National Cyclocross Series Round 2 in South Shields. It was a very dry course, even drier than, well, most of the course was even drier than Derby, which was a bit of a shame. But yeah, a lot of power sections, but a lot of technical sections as well. Really good course and looking forward to it. I was graded 6th. I was really excited for the race, as I just said. And yeah, another front row start, which is such a luxury. And I had a pretty good start. I clipped in really well, but then I just got outpowered on the straight because I was not feeling great. And then I got to the first corner about 4th, which is still pretty solid. That's not really any issue being in 4th. But yeah, in the lead up I'd been on antibiotics. I hadn't been training, hadn't been in school, and my first ride was on Thursday on the rollers and then Friday on the rollers as well. So I was still expecting a lot of myself, but I knew that, that I shouldn't really, but I still want to do well, obviously. Still in 4th at this point, but my legs are absolutely dead. My first lap was shocking, I just had no legs. My first lap was my slowest of the race, and then my 4th was, my 1st and 4th the worst, where I just bonked on the last lap. I already dropped back 2 places on that section. Noah White and Dan Davies, the series leader, came past, and I completely messed up that. Got out of the saddle too early and wheel spun, but didn't lose any positions. And coming up here, I made a bit of a mistake. I dismounted really early for some reason. I think it's because I hadn't practiced it with someone in front of me, and I just didn't even really try and ride, which was a bit silly. And then I got dropped by Noah White after the run up on this horrible headwind section. It was grim, and I just had absolutely no legs. And then on the run there, just trying to limit my losses really, because at this point in the race I was like, okay, if it carries on like this, it's not going to be ideal. But I rode this section every lap, which made me a lot of time. I was always gaining or bridging across the groups on this section. And it's just easier on your legs when you're on the bike instead of running. Because bits like this, you can see there's a bit of a crash there, and they're all running. And I got round the outside of Joel. And then I'm back on that group that, before that off camber, had about 3 or 4 seconds on me. So yeah, being able to ride the technical sections well and not use too much energy was a massive advantage in this race, even though it was limited and they were pretty much the only slippery, really difficult parts of the course. And it's still really tight, everyone's really close together. This is the end of the first lap, and the 3rd place is only, I'm pretty much in the same group as 3rd, even though I'm about 10 seconds behind. Actually, that's a lie, I'm not really in the same group. But got past Joel by riding his hurdles. They were pathetic. At a national, this is just me, but I think you should reward the people who, I'm saying this because I hop hurdles, but I think they should reward the people who can hop and take the time to learn, instead of kind of going down a level and making really small hurdles to just kind of make everyone else be able to, because then it means the people who spend all the time don't get an advantage, because there are a lot of people hopping them that don't really have a technique and you just cleated lift. And here you can see I was in that group with Dan, and James Calvert had quite a big gap on me, and just through this section I've closed another gap and dropped that group with pretty much no effort. So this was pretty much the only part of the course that I was gaining time on, and all the other parts I was just limiting my losses. But my second lap I started to feel alright. My laps were 7:28, 7:12, 7:16, 7:30. So my middle laps were my fastest, and my first is where I felt rubbish, and then my last is where I blew up. So you can really see how I struggled at some points in the race, a lot more than other points. And yeah, just with James at the moment, trying to catch up the group of 3 in front of us. That was Isaac Starmer, Alex Box and Joel Gibbons, and they were fighting for 4th. And I think we're about to start the last lap, or the second to last lap actually, and I was about 2 seconds off them for the last 10 minutes of the race until about halfway through the last lap, and I was just so gutted because I was so close to getting on. And they were in a group, and on a fast course like this, it's definitely an advantage to be in a group where it's not too technical. And I could just see myself getting closer, and then it seemed that once I got within like 10 metres, like there was nothing I could do to close it. And it was just grim just being on my own, and it was very windy as well in a lot of sections. And here you can see again, they're running that section. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be running it, and I managed to ride it by taking that wide line, and I made up a lot of time. And you could see there in my body language how knackered I am. Like, this is, I could have done with there not being another lap, even though there should have been one. But yeah, I absolutely died. And you can see, this is what I was talking about, how close they were. Maybe 2 seconds, maybe a bit more. There's Isaac in the red, Joel in the middle, and then Alex in the blue. And I was just so close, and I was just giving absolutely everything I could to get on.
Literally 2 seconds, it's easy.
I just couldn't. Here, massive sprint. Out of most corners, I was trying my best to do a big sprint, and it was just nothing I was doing was working to close the gap, which was very annoying. Here's some good camera work by Tom Cousins, and we're just about to come into the last lap.
Go on, Sam.
You can see there the gravel where there used to be a running track, I think.
Come on, you got all 3 of them.
That's where the finish line was, and this was the last section of the lap. And I was just, it was agonising, like, so, honestly, I keep going on about it, but it was, like, mentally it was so difficult because I could see them.
So last lap, get out the saddle,
Just,
out the saddle.
every single corner I could see them. I was like, oh, I'm still in the same place since last lap. And then here, I was basically on, and I completely messed up this little, like, rise. I pulled my foot out. It was in part of the course that I was probably worse at, just before the sand run up, and I pulled my foot out when I was literally on the wheel, and then the gap opened up and there was nothing I could do.
Go.
And I didn't bonk. You can't really bonk in a half an hour race, but I absolutely died on this last lap. I just had nothing left. I think part of that might be the illness. I was pretty much over it, but being on antibiotics and not training the week leading up to it isn't going to really help. And here, Freddie Winkley, oh mate, this guy always catches me on the last lap and drops me. Like, any time I'm ahead of him, I'm like, yeah, I'm finally going to be Freddie. And then last lap, he'll come out of nowhere and drop me. And that's what's about to happen. I tried to ride this again, but as I just had nothing left, I completely messed up. Probably should have dismounted and not taken the risk, but when it's points like that, I always feel like I need to take the risk, because I think I can mess it up and think, oh, okay, I messed it up, or run it and go, maybe I would have beat him if I rode that, but I didn't have the balls. So I prefer to take the risk, and maybe it's not the best thing, but I'm less annoyed if I mess it up than I am if I didn't try. So yeah, and then there you can see that group, they're really pushing on, they'll fight for 4th place, so the gap grew, they beat me by about 20 seconds in the end. I'm trying to cling on to Freddie, it wasn't going to happen, I got dropped again. But it's still such tight gaps, like from 8th to 4th was about 20 seconds, and even to 3rd, Noah White was only about 30 seconds ahead of me. But when the courses start to get muddy again, well, finally, hope so, it's November now, then the gaps will be a lot bigger, surely. And coming into the finish, 8th place, not my worst race, but not my best race. Happy with how I did in the end, but yeah.